upon Mr. Ashley Ward, content marketer at SME Rush, to give an idea on content marketing ROI. Ashley Ward is a corporate speaker, evangelist of SME Rush, the most comprehensive business intelligence platform for digital marketing. Her passion is focused on helping business and marketing professionals gain long-term ROI through teaching content marketing and social media marketing tips and tricks. With over 6 years of experience in the digital marketing industry and a journalism or public relations background, Ashley brings first-hand experience and case studies to inspire marketers around the world using unique content marketing and social media marketing tactics. So speaking both internationally and throughout the US, she regularly teaches workshops and speaks at conferences like Pubcon, Retail Global, and the prestigious SMS Sydney. She has also co-authored the best-selling book, The Better Business Book V.2, and is a contributing writer to industry blogs such as Search Engine Journal and AuthorityLabs. So, no further delay, we can call upon Ms. Ashley Ward for the presentation about content marketing ROI. So, hi Mr. Ashley Ward. So, is the stage for yours to present the presentation.
I'm going to be going into how you can actually measure your content in order to create growth. And the reason that we have to do that is because 88% of marketers are integrating content into their marketing strategies, but only 57% of marketers are actually struggling to measure their content marketing strategies. So more than half of us are making content, but we don't actually know if anything's converting or not. So we're going to figure out how you can measure your content by going over why you need to measure it in the first place, different metrics to measure, the costs that are associated with content, how you can get a return on your investment, and some final takeaways. So first, why should you even measure content in the first place? Well, a big reason is if you want to grow your business this year. So an example of this is with Equinox. They launched their brand in the States and they launched Q in 2011. Q is more of like their content distribution. They quickly gained over 1 million monthly users from the launch. 30 to 40% of those 1 million monthly users were existing Equinox members because it was a membership program. So that means 70 to 60% were brand new users that they gained from creating this new content. So Equinox actually measured that and they took note of those content metrics and they decided, okay, let's create a growth plan because clearly our content is helping bring in new users. And so they did, and because of the metrics that they measured and because of the success that they found, in January of 2016, a couple years ago, Equinox launched Furthermore. This is a completely separate, different website. It's a subdivision from Equinox, but they have their own social media channels. It's all about health, food, workout, and it's its own separate product. So they were able to grow their business and now have two separate businesses because they measured their content and were able to define where the success was. You also want to measure your content in order to try new content types. So REI's Expert Advice Learning Library was the highest rated section on REI's website, with users engaging for an average of 5.5 minutes an article. 5.5 minutes is a really long time for a user to engage with an article online. That's really good numbers. So since REI measured that and saw, okay, people are engaging with us for at least 5 minutes with just our articles, why not try 6-minute videos to see if we can keep them even longer? So they tried it. 73% of the 6-minute videos had a 100% completion rate. That's huge. That means they were watching it from the start to the end, 73% of people. So then REI, because they measured all of that, released a 30-minute film, which has gained over 1 million views on YouTube. So they started with just articles as their content, and then they decided to start making videos as their content, and then they went and made film. all because they measured their content. But in order to do that, both companies, Equinox and REI, really had to define their goals. REI's goal was to keep people as long as they possibly can in order to create new content. Equinox's goals was to expand the business and create a separate product. What are your content goals? Do you have any specific goals? There's a lot of goals that you can accomplish with content. It just really comes down to what's important for you right now in this quarter. And that could be increasing your website traffic, increasing your blog traffic, your blog engagement. It could be decreasing your bounce rates. If you want to generate new leads, new customers, you want people to fill out a registration page on one of your landing pages, you want to increase your brand exposure to a new audience or a new region. You want to become an authority figure within your industry, and by doing so, you want to provide educational articles. Or you want to maybe increase your ranking positions, get above your competitors. You want to gain new backlinks from your content, increase your customer loyalty by giving them the content that they actually want, or providing customer education. So now that you have a better idea of why you need to measure your metrics and you start thinking about what your goal is when it comes to creating content, let's look at the different metrics that are associated with content marketing. The first is user behavior. This is huge and one of the biggest ones that we're going to measure when it comes to content. This graphic basically breaks it down. First, you have your page views. This is going to indicate the number of views per particular web page. It's going to give you a general idea of how good the performance of your content is based on how many views the content is getting. On social media, this would be like how many likes you're getting. And then there's unique visitors. So this is how many visitors your content attracts that are perhaps new. This is going to allow you to determine the size of your audience. And then there's pages per session. This is going to indicate the average number of pages viewed during a single session on your website. This metric is going to help you actually evaluate your interlinking between your sites. So if someone started on one piece of content that you created and then went to a product page or went to a service page and then went to a checkout, you want to track how many pages they're going to on your website because of the content that you produced. Then there's new and returning users. Are you generating more new users? Or are you just attracting the users that you usually generate from the content that you created? And then the average time on page, your page depth, the average number of pages that users are visiting per session, the bounce rate. This is the percentage of users who left a particular page without visiting any other website pages. So a high bounce rate, something 70, 80, 90, that means they're not sticking around on your content. Your content isn't serving them, it's not what they're looking for, and they're leaving. And then finally, traffic sources. Where are they coming from in order to get to your content? You need to know, because if social media is your best outlet to get them to the content, you need to amplify social media. If it's other websites or if it's a page on your website that's sending them to your content, you need to know so you can amplify those traffic sources. There's a lot of different tools that you can use to find these user behavior metrics. SEMrush Reports is going to be probably the easiest. It's going to generate how many sessions, how many new sessions are generated, your bounce rate, the average session duration, how many goals were completed once you set up goals, your pages per session, and so on. You can also find this information inside of Google Analytics. You can do Crazy Egg and Chartbeat as well. So the next metric to measure when it comes to content is your engagement. So this is your social media and your public relations metrics that we're focusing on. So for the social media side of things, this is how many likes did your content generate on social media? How many shares did it get? Did anyone even share it with their audience? How many comments? Did people just like it and no one actually commented on it? These are all things that you need to keep in mind when you're measuring your content to see, was it actually successful? And then on the public relations side of things, you're looking at, did it increase my brand mentions online? Are more people talking about my brand online because of this piece of content that I created? And one of my favorites, any incoming requests. So is any other company within your industry reaching out to you because of the content that you create and said, hey, I would love to create a piece of content with you. We're very similar brands, or I saw this infographic that you created or this video that you created. Let's create one together. Then you have two different audiences that are going to see your content and two different businesses that are going to promote the content for you. And finally, there's republications. This is when your content is not only valued by users, but also by bloggers, media, and experts. So it's when other bloggers or businesses or brands reach out to you and say, hey, I love that infographic or video that you produced. Can I put it on my website? So they may not actually want to work with you to produce content, but they want to share your content on their website. That doubles the views. You can measure your engagement metrics by using your social media platform analytics. So this is going into the back end of your Facebook business page, your Twitter business page, going into analytics, going into your Instagram business analytics, your Pinterest business analytics, or you can use the SEMrush social media tracker. So that's going to have all of your social media networks, as you can see, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, YouTube, LinkedIn, and have all of the metrics such as engagement, likes, retweets, replies, shares, comments, things like that. And for your brand mentions, for your public relations side of things, you can use a tool called Mention that's going to track all of your new brand mentions. Another metric is your SEO metrics when it comes to content. So first is organic traffic. Did it improve your organic traffic? Which of your content has the best SEO potential? You're going to be able to basically figure out what kind of content is helping increase your rankings the best when you go back and measure it. And then there's backlinks. Backlinks are super important, but you need quality backlinks coming from good sites. So are certain topics that you write about or produce content for giving you more backlinks? If so, you're going to want to write more about those topics. And then there's dwell time. This is the average length of time a visitor spends on a page before returning to the search tab for results. And then there's keyword rankings. So this indicates the current position of your web page in search tab results for a specific term you're trying to rank for. So in all content that you produce, you're going to have different keyword terms in it. For your SEO metrics, you can find these out for your content using tools like Google Analytics. Again, is going to give you a lot of these. You can do Google Webmaster Tools, the SEMrush on-page SEO tracker, the SEMrush Domain Analytics, and Google Trends. These are all great tools to use when trying to define your SEO metrics. And then there's company revenue. After all, we're all trying to make money here when it really comes down to it. So can content actually produce any revenue? Can it produce more ROI than just engagement or rankings? Yes. So some ways that you can figure out is to first check, did it touch any existing leads? So did I engage with any of my previous customers or potential customers? What is my conversion rate? If I'm getting conversions from the content that I created, what's the percentage of visitors who took the desired action, whether that's click, fill out a form box, or buy something after they interacted with your content? And then there's new leads generated. So this indicates the number of new users who shared their personal details in exchange for your content or after touching it. Then there's the return on the investment. This is the actual ROI. So this is going to measure the amount of return on the investment relative to the cost of your content creation and distribution. And then finally, the cost per acquisition. This is going to measure the cost to acquire one paying customer across your content marketing campaign. So for a content marketing lead, it may cost $30, whereas a social media lead could cost $50. You need to know what your cost per acquisition is when it comes to creating content. These are, to measure your company revenue, these are going to be a little bit more dry and to the point metrics on how you can actually measure them. So one way you can do it is to track the number of returning users inside Google Analytics. You can also set up goals to see how many leads were generated, if that's what your goal is inside of Google Analytics. You can check your CRM for new leads and existing leads, and then your conversion rate. You divide good old-fashioned math. You divide the amount of conversions with the amount of clicks you received. And again, these conversions could be self-checkouts, they could be opt-in forms, webinar signups, clicks, whatever your goal, your conversion is. Then finally, there's content production metrics. This is the one that everyone forgets to measure. How long did it actually take you to create the content? And go all the way back to the beginning when you were in a brainstorming session trying to figure out what kind of content should I create next. Or better yet, you were doing research and trying to figure out what kind of content does your audience want to see, what topics rank the best, what keywords should you be using. You need to think about how many employees or freelancers did it take to actually produce this content all the way from the beginning. And then how long did it take to create the content, edit the content, publish the content, and then measure it. Your time is a metric. So that's a lot of metrics to go through. That's a lot to actually measure every time you create a new piece of content. So here's some tips to try and help digest this a little bit easier. First, you want to change things up for new results. So what that really means is A/B test. Just because one infographic that you produce didn't give you the exact goal that you wanted doesn't mean that the infographic was terrible. It could mean that the topic that you focus on the infographic wasn't right, or the topic was right, but in infographic form just didn't do right for your audience. Maybe a blog post would be more effective. In order to figure that out, you have to test both the topic type as well as what the content type is. And by content type, I mean, is it a blog post? Is it an article? Is it a white paper? Is it a case study? Is it a video? Is it an infographic? Is it a homemade graphic, a GIF? You have to test different pieces of content to figure out what your audience likes best, and not just throw a piece of content out because the first time it didn't give you the results that you wanted. And B2B marketers report sales lead quality, so the quality of the lead that comes in, as their #1 most important metric for measuring content marketing success. Even more important than sales and conversions. That's huge. So B2B marketers, business to business, are saying that the quality of the lead that comes in is way more important to them than how many conversions or sales that they get. Kind of makes sense, but what are your key metrics? Because not all the metrics are going to be the same for content types. I'm going to give you a second, and I want you to think of what the top 3 key metrics are for blog posts. So if you were going to create a blog post, and then at the end of the day you wanted to measure how successful it was, what would you be looking at? Go ahead and think about it for a second. So the top 3 metrics for your blog post is going to be your time on page, your website traffic, new users, and bounce rate. I'm going to get into this a little bit more on what these metrics really mean to really define them. But now think about podcasts. Are the top metrics for podcasts going to be the same as blog posts? No, not at all. The top metrics for podcasts are your listening length, your new subscribers, and your shares. This is because blog posts are a completely different type of content than podcasts are. And so that means the results that they both generate are going to be different, and you need to know what metrics are going to matter most to you to hit your goals dependent upon the content that you create. Now at SEMrush, we have a tool called the WOW score, where it goes in and it actually grades your content based on the most accurate metrics. So this is your active users reading time. So if we go back to what the key metrics are, time on page, yes, that's a key metric, but you want the active user reading time. I can start reading an article, go make a cup of coffee, go make breakfast. I'm still leaving this page up, but I'm not actually engaging with it. That doesn't really count as active users. You want to know how much time people are actually reading or digesting or watching, listening your content. And you also want to know the scroll speed. Did they just scroll down to the bottom? Are they scrolling fast and just getting the highlighted parts? Or are they actually digesting each part? And so we ran a test to see which metrics actually matter the most. And we found that shares, time on page, and page views maybe weren't exactly the best metrics. And that's because we'll break this down one by one. Shares, Just because someone shares it doesn't mean it gets read. So if you're going to count shares as the most important metric for, say, blog posts, you also need to associate it with the active time on page. So if you're getting a bunch of new shares and you're getting new users going to your piece of content, are they actually reading it or are they leaving right away? And then your time on page, well, we just talked about maybe I'm making coffee and breakfast and then coming back. You need the active users' time on page. In page views, clickbait can totally skew your page view metrics. So you definitely want to take page views with a grain of salt. Yes, if a content can increase the amount of page views that you receive, that's amazing. But you also have to associate that with their active reading time. So now that we know what to measure, let's look at the costs that are associated with creating content. The two biggest costs are time and money. So the time that it takes to create the content, to edit the content, to publish the content, and measure the content. It's a lot of time to create just one piece of content. And then there's all the money associated with it. Whether you're paying in-house employees, paying an agency that develops content for you, you're hiring a freelancer, plus all the images, the graphics, and advertising you need to do. So first, let's look at the in-house cost if you are an in-house content marketer. So in the States as of last November, the average content marketing manager salary was $73,000 a year. Plus, on top of that, you have to throw in if they have benefits, if you give them health insurance, if you have an HR department to manage the payroll, and all of that. That all adds up. Plus, on top of that, you also need in-house tools. So you're looking at content creation tools. This is a great list of tools to keep track of. In order to create content and generate ideas, you're looking at using BuzzSumo, Contently, HubSpot, Curata, Hemingway, Writewell, or Marketo. And then you need to share your content on social media. So you need tools like the SEMrush social media poster, where you can schedule out your content to post on all the different social media outlets. Or you can use things like Hootsuite, Sprout Social, Buffer, Post Planner. And then you need brand monitoring tools. So this is going to manage how many brand mentions you receive online. You can use tools like SumoMe, Brand24, BuzzSumo, Clout, and Mention. And then there's your website analytics tools. This is to figure out, okay, the SEO, the backlinks, the user behavior. This you're going to use your Google Analytics, SimpleReach, OmniAssure, SEMrush, or Majestic. So that's a lot of costs with in-house, but it's also amazing to have someone in-house to where you can go across the hall and actually talk to them about the content. You can have the content, the SEO, and the social teams all have meetings together. It makes things a lot easier. But also the agency route is a great way to go. But there's a lot of costs associated with that. So the average content marketing agency, you're looking at the lowest starting at $1,200 a month, all the way up to $10,000 a month, depending upon what agreement you have with the content marketing agency. So if you want them to produce a ton of content, or you're working on one big project, or just maybe 4 blog posts a month, that's where you're going to have the range from the low, medium to high. Also depends on what kind of agency you work with. If they only focus on content marketing and are more enterprise, you're going to be paying a lot more. And then there's the freelancer cost. This is going to be the least expensive option, but may not always be the best. So freelancers can be as low as $35 for a piece of content, all the way up to $3,000 plus, depending upon what kind of content project. If you want someone to go create a whole brand new ebook for you online, that's probably going to be much more in the high range than it's going to be in the low range. And with freelancers, you have to add on your own time. Do not forget to add your time on as a metric, because your time is so valuable. With freelancers, you're going to invest a lot of your time. So even though those costs are low, you're going to have time managing the work. You're going to have time editing all of the content that they bring through, because you have to run through and edit it, either yourself or an editor. And then the communication back and forth as you're sharing ideas, as you're hiring someone, as you're following up on everything. And then either if you go in-house, agency, or freelancer, you have a lot of advertising costs associated regardless. So content marketers are spending on average $500 to $5,000 plus a month to advertise the content they produce. That's a lot of money that we're spending to create and promote content, either way if we're going in-house or freelancer. So how can we keep these content costs down? Because no matter what, we still do need to keep creating content and measure it. One way you can do it is to repurpose your content. Repurposing your content is absolutely amazing in order to keep costs down. Go through an audit, see what your best performing content was last year, and repurpose it. You can recycle it or republishing it. Recycling it means you're just going to make updates to the post. So say you have a blog post about the top 20 things to do for X, Y, and Z. Go ahead and update that piece of content and now add the top 35 things in 2018 to do for X, Y, and Z. That's republishing. Recycling a post is taking that original topic and making it into a brand new piece of content. So it's taking that top 20 blog post and now making it a video and posting it on YouTube. There's so much you can do when it comes to repurposing your content that is minimal to low effort and low cost. So it's a great way to keep your costs down. One of my favorite things to do is to take a whole category of blog posts that I've published and turn it into an ebook. So say you write a blog post for a home decor company and you have categories that are all blog posts about bathroom decor or bathroom remodeling, anything and everything to do with bathrooms. You can take all those posts, throw them into an ebook, add a cover, a table of contents, and then reuse that content. You can sell that ebook on Amazon. You can use it as a sales tool to give away in order to get leads. So all repurposing content, and it's such a low cost thing to do. One way that we do that at SEMrush is every Wednesday we have a Twitter chat. The Twitter chat is basically we talk about anything and everything digital marketing within the industry. So say a big update happened or there's a big trending topic, we'll have someone that we're interviewing on Twitter, we'll have a series of questions, and then we invite everyone to join in and answer and have a conversation. We then take that Twitter chat and turn it into a blog post on our website. We take screenshots of some of the top tweets. We go through what all the questions were, what the main answer was, what everyone basically agreed on, or if there was a bunch of arguments, if we couldn't come to terms with one answer, we include all of that information in the blog post. We can take it a step further and then make that a video and then take the audio from the video and make it a podcast. All from content that we only generated once can be reused. You also want to focus on quality of content and not quantity. Too often we get caught up with just pushing out as much content as we can because we're told we need tons and tons and tons of content. Stop doing that. Focus on producing quality pieces that your users are actually going to read. They're actually going to engage with. They're going to want to share with their friends, and their friends are going to want to engage with it too. Go back and think about that average, the active read time. We want high active read times like REI, who is getting 5.5 minutes. Can you get 5.5 minutes? One of the questions that we asked in our SEMrush Twitter chat was, is it better to publish new content regularly or release one evergreen piece quarterly? And why? Answer after answer after answer kept coming back saying, create quality over quantity. It's so much more important. And another tweet from the chat, quarterly is too infrequent for most niches, but don't kill quality just to get out a post a day. It's not going to be worth it. And your brand's going to have a very negative look when you produce poor quality content. And you want to invite user-generated content. That's a great way to keep costs down. It's like your users create the content for you. And it's so successful because 76% of individuals surveyed said they trust content shared by average people. This is the you and the me, not the big brands. They trust that by average people more than they do by brands. So Qatar Airways, Red Bull, BMW, Wayfair, those are all big names. When they share content, sure, we can like it. But are we actually really going to trust what they say about their product as much as we do when our aunt or friend or coworker tells us what their experience was on Qatar Airways, or how they just got a brand new BMW and they love it, or they ordered something from Wayfair and it was a terrible experience. People are going to trust opinions and reviews from people more than they will from brands. So try and work with your customers and your demographics to have them generate content for you, and encourage them to do so. Run a contest, offer a big prize, look at your brand mentions on social media and see what you can reshare and reuse. So now that we know how to keep our costs down a little bit, how can you actually profit from content in 2018? Well, you really need to match your content with your goals. So there's all sorts of different kinds of content that's created for specific goals. So certain types of content are going to help you reach a certain goal faster. So say you want to increase your rankings. You want to get ahead of your competitors and you want to be on page 1 of Google and the top results. Well, certain types of content are going to help you get there faster. And that's guest posting on other blogs, creating your own blog posts, creating infographics, doing videos and uploading them on YouTube, adding them on your website, encouraging users to give you local reviews, creating how-to guides, case studies, and training courses. Say you want to generate new leads. That's a really important goal for you. You're going to get new leads by your email newsletters. Landing pages are great, and there's all sorts of content you can put on your landing pages. Social media ads directing people to your content, and social media posts to help generate new leads going to your content. So as you can see, certain types of content are going to help you achieve certain types of goals. You also want to make your content mobile friendly. Mobile is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. By the end of the year, 79% of users are projected to only be searching on mobile devices. So we have to make our content match mobile too. And that's because nearly 8 in 10 customers are going to stop engaging with content that doesn't display well on their device. That 80% of customers is going to leave, and they're going to go back to your competitor, and they're going to engage with your competitor's content because yours didn't load well on their mobile device. A few ways that you can make your content actually load well and think about mobile-friendly content. One, you want to think about smaller sections, not huge paragraphs. Break up your paragraphs into smaller sections that are easy to digest on your phone. You also want to keep in mind your text size. Yes, we have to make our text size bigger for mobile, but we don't want it so big that we're scrolling just to get through 3 words. So find a happy middle point with your text size and make it readable. Your images and your video files need to be compressed. So often page speed on mobile is affected simply just because of the images and the videos that you have on there. And then your load speed. Aim for a load speed of less than 2 seconds. I ran an experiment just to see how are people searching and engaging with content on desktop versus mobile. What is the big difference? And so I went into SEMrush and went into our organic search positions to see what people are searching for BuzzFeed, what the top keywords are. So as you can see, BuzzFeed quizzes, quiz, air fryer, food, that all makes sense. This is what people are searching for on desktop and engaging with the most on desktop when it comes to BuzzFeed. But then you go over to mobile and it's totally different. So BuzzFeed, of course, their branded term. Then you have Nicki Minaj, a celebrity, quizzes, something you do actively, Yo Mama jokes, again, something you do actively, and would you rather jokes. That's another thing that you would do actively. It's so interesting that what we're looking for on mobile, we're looking for an answer, a solution, entertainment, something that we can do right now and make it immediate. Versus desktop, we're doing research, we're digesting a lot of information, we're watching something for a very long time. So how you create content mobilely needs to actually affect this. You need to look at what keywords are for mobile devices and include that and create content around Yo Mama jokes or would you rather or quizzes based on your industry. You also need to A/B test verticals and content types. 76% of B2B marketers blog and 73% publish case studies. Does that mean one is better than the other? No, you need to test and figure out what kind of content your demographic wants to engage with the most. And track your metrics over time. So is your content receiving backlinks? What kind of engagement is it getting? What kind of conversions is it getting after 1 month? And then what is it getting after a quarter? And then what is it getting after 2 quarters? Keep track of these metrics and constantly audit your content, your past content and your new content, to see what topics and what content pieces get the most engagement, so that you can continue to create those types of topics. And some final content takeaways. Set goals. You really need to set goals for the content that you create so you can track your results. Learn from any mistakes that you make. You're going to make a lot when it comes to content. We're all human. It's going to happen. We're trying to figure out what content works best. So make sure every piece of content that you produce is aligning with the goals that you set. And measure your results. Document them so that you can learn, iterate, and improve on your content. So eventually you can be a content hero within your industry. And finally, keep on keeping on with your content. Do not ever give up. You're unlikely to strike gold every single time you create a piece of content. You won't. It's just not going to happen. So learn from your mistakes and keep improving on all of the content that you make. And you're going to be able to do that by measuring it. That is all for me. If you would like a copy of these slides, you can please feel free to email me, ashley.ward@semrush. If you'd like more information on the tools that I included as well, you can also email me and I'd be happy to share more info on the tools. Otherwise, from here, I think we'll take it to questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ashley Ward, for giving us such notable information on content marketing, or why it's very information session for us. So right now, participants, is the question and answer session for you guys, so that who are like interested to ask for the question with Miss Ashley, she is ready to answer the questions, whatever the queries regarding the content marketing. So here she have gave her mail ID also, so that whoever need to ask in person with her, so that they can pose their questions to her mail ID, is her personal mail ID. So let's start the session of question and answer. So anyone like ready to ask for the question, so let me know, so that Ashley can be ready to clear the doubts, whatever doubts you have. Okay, here comes the question for you, Miss Ashley.
So what is the future of content marketing and how do I see it evolve in 2019? The future of content marketing is mobile. Everything's mobile. So basically what's happening with voice search and how people are getting answers on their phone, you need to create both short content that is going to give those single answers, as well as provide additional content at the end. So that may be creating one page, so say a blog post that has a video option, has a short summary that's maybe a few sentences, and then a long form, to where you're satisfying everybody. You're satisfying the mobile user, the voice searcher, and the desktop user. That's really where content is about to go. How often should you send emails to your customers? I'm not an email marketing expert, so I can't go too deep on that at all. I do know that you can measure it based on how many unsubscribes you're getting. So if you're sending emails once a day and you're getting a ton of people unsubscribing from you, it's probably because you're sending too many emails. So test it, maybe try out once a week and measure, are you gaining a consistent amount of new subscribers and they're staying with you, or are they leaving once they're actually getting your newsletters?
Okay, participants, so I think so like you have been very much impressed by the session of Miss Ashley Ward. So that who are like willing to ask for the question, post up the question so that it will be noticed and then will be answered within a day time, so that you will be get clarified with your questions. Okay, thank you, Miss Ashley Ward. Thank you for the presentation of this second day in the conference. It was very much informative for us on content marketing on ROI. So thank you so much, Ashley. It's a nice day with you. Thank you. Bye-bye.